Yo,
Mr.
yo.
Mraz.
Hey, Joe, can you hear me?
Yeah, you're perfect.
One sec, man. Let me see if, can you hear me on this microphone at all?
Yeah, I
You
can hear
can?
you both ways.
One second. For some reason, I'm only hearing you on my phone, but not my headphones.
All right. Well, we got time if you want to get it wired.
Okay. Tell me something. Are you hearing me if I tap this mic?
No.
No. Okay. You just hear me through the phone.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, shucks. Because I was kind of hoping that this little mic would give us a better quality and I would be able to hear you, but
I mean,
that
you're
ain't working.
really good. Can you hear me okay?
Yep. I'm just going to switch to a little dongle so that I can actually put my headphones in because I prefer that. One sec.
Okay, no worries.
Thanks for the invite.
Of course. So, guys, let us know if you have questions for Jason. We have a lot of stuff, and I promised him we wouldn't be too long. But in your comments, list out questions if you have them for Jay, and we'll try to get to them.
Okay. All right. I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Great.
Thanks, Jay. Thanks for being with us today.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for the invite to share, connect, and talk to somebody who's not sequestered at my house.
Absolutely. So Jay, so for everybody that's on, I think everybody knows who Jason Mraz is. He's one of the best songwriters of our time.
Oh, shucks.
Grammy award-winning artist. He's a friend of mine and somebody that I just have a ton of respect for some of the reasons we're hopefully going to get to in this conversation. But Jay, we start off all of our meetings with our team at HQ. When we have company-wide meetings, we ask people what their high-low is. And I'd love to know, life out on the farm, you've been sequestered to your house, as you mentioned. What's your high-low of this whole thing?
Okay. Can you just give me and your viewers an update on what you mean by high-low? Like
high meaning like your best moment. You're like, this moment or this experience has given me this gift, and this is like what I think of on the most positive side, and this has been the most challenging thing that I've had to deal with.
Okay. High low. You know, I'm blessed because I'm self-employed. I create my life. I create how I work, when I work, where I work. And this situation has forced me to basically stay home and work. And the high is the gift, to be able to stay home and work. And we have a small farm, a fruit farm here where we live. And when I'm out doing music, all I'm doing in farming is writing checks. I'm not actually in the trees. I'm not working the earth. I'm just trying to follow along and see where our expenses are going. So the high for me is that in addition to making music at home, I'm now part of the farm team more on a full-time basis, which I absolutely love. It's not just seasonal. Now I get to do it almost every day. The low for me is the technology, you know, trying to figure out how I'm going to connect with audiences around the world from my home. And I don't know if you can see background, but I've converted my studio into this like little PBS station where I'm able to share videos, information, live performances, etc., in an effort not just to turn the phone on myself and stream and say, look at me, but in an effort to still be an entertainer and still deliver what I think is quality content for the fans that care about my music or that care about my performances. So that's been very, very challenging. You know, I'm so grateful to my road crew. When I'm out on the road, my crew is making sure all of that audio and all that quality is at its highest. And here I am now trying to learn how to use all this studio gear and my laptop and Wi-Fi. I mean, Joe, I was the kind of person that used to brag about not having a TV, and I didn't have Wi-Fi in my home because I wanted to be home when I was home. I didn't want to be portaling out to the world. And this has forced me to have to get not one, but 2 hotspots and have to, you know, bring Wi-Fi into my home so that I can be more of a broadcaster during this time. Because it was during this time that I was actually going to be on the road promoting my new album, and now all of that has just been brought to a halt. And so learning how to do it from home, and that's a challenge. So how do you connect with fans and audiences from home? That's my love.
Yeah. So you just released an album last year. I mean, you're supposed to be out on the road connecting with people musically, something that I would imagine just fills you up, right? It's probably something that's like a person like myself and our audience like will never understand what that feels like. And now you're sequestered to your home. Like, talk to me a little bit about resilience. And like, you have a pretty amazing story from like the time that you packed up your car and told your parents you were going to be going to California for spring break. Yet you had like all of your possessions in your car, from what I hear.
Good memory.
All the way through the ups and downs of the music industry to like creating a career that spanned like 20 something years. It's truly an inspiring story. I mean, what kind of like lessons from your career have helped you with like being more resilient in your life, and anything you'd pass along to people who are kind of going through a tough time right now?
Sure. Okay. In resilience, I mean, there's so many different ways. I think you have to have as many tools in your tool belt, as many little tools in your fanny pack as possible to manage expectations, to manage your physical health, to manage your resilience levels. So for me, on like the mental game, because a lot of putting yourself out there is mental. So for some context, doing what I do has to have first a level of narcissism, a whole level of look at me, everybody, look what I can do. And ever since I was a little kid, I've stood on my fireplace or my back steps and I performed for my neighbors and my family, my brothers and sisters, made little videos. So ever since I was a child, this is the life I wanted to live. And out of high school, I just figured that's what I'm going to learn how to do. I'm going to learn how to be an entertainer because that's where my joy is. And as you become an adult, it starts to feel a little strange. It's like, wow, I'm actually paid to just be a child entertaining people. I'm a clown. I'm a professional clown for hire. And so I have to have a certain level of narcissism that I accept, because if ever I think I'm not good enough, nobody wants to see me, I'm not worthy, then that just ruins the show. It ruins the show for them. It ruins the show for me. I don't want to be on the road. I don't want to be seen. I don't want to be heard. So a certain level of self-confidence has to always be maintained in order to always be camera ready, stage ready, ready to improvise, ready to write a song, ready to deliver music for somebody who's requesting it. And I do that through, one, mentally, is a saying that it's none of my business what you think of me. It's none of my business what you think of me. Because I don't know. You could be watching the show, but at the same time, you could be zoned out thinking about a television show that you love or something else. So I really don't know what you think. And I'm certainly not going to spend my brain energy thinking you don't like me or that you don't want to be here, because that is a waste of my energy. So to keep my attitude positive and my confidence in myself strong, I say it's none of my business what you think of me. And I just trust that I'm going to deliver great art. I'm going to be rad, in that whatever you see or hear in the 5 minutes or the 2-hour show is going to be a great show for you. Physically, I have to check in. I have to tune myself up. So I'll wake up and do a short yoga practice along with a short cardio practice that really just helps me sing and helps me speak, and I think helps me connect my brain to my body. I know when I first get up, I'm clumsy, I'm knocking things over, I'm trying to make coffee, I'm spilling the coffee. Like, my brain and my body just aren't connected when I first wake up. So I have to do a tune up, a tune in, really, to connect all of my faculties. And I do that on the road, I do that at home, and without it, my day is just out of whack. I'm spilling things, I'm behind on emails, I'm even behind in my inner thoughts about my own confidence and my self-worth. So when I do that tune-up in the morning through yoga, breath work, little bit of jumping up and down, cardio, however, dancing. Some days I dance it out with the cardio, which is super fun. That brings me online. It connects my head, my heart, my body. It brings me online so that I can accomplish my tasks. And those really are the two big things that I think help me on my day-to-day resilience and my day-to-day maintenance and management, so that I can accomplish anything. Because if I have those two things in order, then the rest of my life can be chaotic and free the way an artist's life should be.
Yeah. It's interesting you say that, Jay, because at Vuori we kind of have this like tagline for our value systems, and it's called investment in happiness. And really at the core of its message is that you have to be like a willing participant, and you have to have like an intention and actually take some action if you want to live a fulfilling life. And I think like what I'm hearing from you is that, and like everybody, this is like, Jason Mraz we're talking about plays in auditoriums full of like, thousands and thousands of people. And you still have practices and like rituals that you invest in to build resiliency, and like whether that's happiness for you, but that there's a process by which you cultivate these traits.
Absolutely. And that resilience for me is happiness, and with a pinch of detachment, because I don't want to be married to some expectation or some result. I just want to live in the moment and know that I've got control of that moment to some degree. But at the same time, detached from any outcome or what I think at the moment should even look like. But yeah, it does require daily maintenance. When I sit down to write a song, just because I've done it for 20 plus years doesn't mean I know how I'm going to write that song, or doesn't mean I know what the outcome of that song is even going to be. I just know I need to have the mindset, the patience, the preparation to sit down and be with that blank page, to be with my instrument, and be with the divine to channel some kind of thought, emotion, message onto that page. So all of that requires, tune up.
Yeah.
It requires practice.
Yeah. Totally.
Maintenance. I think, sure, you're born with a little bit of talent. I think every artist is born with the light, and then you have your whole life to polish that light, and whole life to figure out how to make that light brighter, or your whole life to figure out how to turn that light into like a disco ball and send it a lot of different directions, and just because I'm 42 now and I've been working on this light since I was a little kid, I feel like I still have a long way to go. I still feel like people still haven't seen the dark side of my moon, because I've been so focused on showing you the positive, bright side and working on that a real full life is going to have to, I want to show you my whole disco ball.
Yeah. Well, I find it interesting. You mentioned two things in that. One that oftentimes have like a negative connotation. One is like a narcissistic quality, which at the end of the day, we're all human, right? We all are narcissists in our own unique little ways. And then the second thing was detachment. And I think in a lot of respects, those are just really good lessons, right? If you keep them in check. But, one of the things like as an artist, and I want to talk about creativity, but first, just as an artist and somebody who's putting themselves out there, we deal with it in fashion design. We create product that we love that sometimes our customers hate and it doesn't work. Or, as a design team, we put something out there that we're so in love with only to receive like negative feedback from the marketing team and the sales team and all these other people that are involved in our creative process. But it feels like to me, like to touch on like the narcissistic aspect of being an artist, it feels to me, and just being a fan of yours and watching your journey, your earlier albums, it was almost like you were a performer. You were writing, in a way, it was like the songs felt like they had a different meaning. And like, as you've kind of grown, I know that at one point you found like yoga and you started getting really curious about mindset and things of this nature. And like, it feels like your songwriting really has evolved. And I don't know if that's just kind of following your life and your life experience, or if you feel like you've transitioned and journeyed away from like more of like a, I don't want to say like an ego-centered like motivation for your craft into like more of like a, I don't know what you'd call it, but like a message, like a desire to spread a message of like positivity, and like what, maybe you could talk us through that journey and what does that mean for you?
Yeah, well, you know, your motivations change through the years. When I first started and I was 21, just getting into the coffee shops, it was like, look at me, look how cool I am. I just wanted to be a rock star. I didn't want to have a real job. I figured I'd be a starving artist my whole life, which kind of brings in an element of punk rock. So I'm sleeping on couches, I'm smoking cigarettes, I'm eating Jack in the Box, like I'm invincible. I'm going to live forever, whatever, you know. And then in your early 20s, you know, you're fueled by your hormones. And so I'm writing songs that are not fully realized, and but at the same time they're filled with poetry and romance. And I'm trying to get the girl in every scenario. I'm trying to get the girl. I'm trying to get some action, you know. Well, as time goes by and audiences are starting to lean in and view my show, I become very aware that they are giving me their most valuable asset, which is their time and their attention. And it becomes very present. I become very present to needing to respect that time and that attention, not take it for granted, not take it lightly, not be abusive of that time, and not be a jackass, not be an a-hole on someone else's watch. So as more and more audiences are leaning in and listening, I feel more responsible as a songwriter and as someone who has this privilege of traveling the world to look around the world and what am I viewing on my own personal journey and on my own personal awakening? What am I seeing? What am I sensitive to? What organizations are out there working hard for a better world? How can I weave some of this into the music and be a more conscious songwriter, so that when I do put music out, it has a purpose, so that when I do show up on the stage, I'm not just entertaining and joking around, which I am most of the time, but that I'm also packaging up a really potent message that I hope can offer hope or transformational tools, love, laughter, any type of insight that I can weave into the music. So that was my journey. As I was learning those, I'm weaving those into the songs. And then my motivations for getting the girl and paying my bills, those all change. And now, you know, then my motivations for a while were, how can I save the planet? You know, I want to do it in my own backyard. Then my motivations were, you know, how can I spotlight human rights organizations and sing songs that breathe life into them? I got married and I wanted to put my energy into that, and some songs started to reflect that relationship. You know, when Trump was elected in 2016, my writing style changed a lot because I didn't really know how to respond, but I didn't want to respond negatively. So I start writing about issues that I care about. And that's what's going to be unfolding on my album that comes out this year, are the songs that I wrote over the last 4 years in this new administration, and how I think we can still look for the good and how we can still transform and evolve through this. So yeah, my writing style has been a marriage, and you described it perfectly in the setup to this question, but it's a marriage of my own personal journey and my own awakening, my own transformation, and respecting the audience, because it's grown worldwide, and I want to be mindful that we are all around the world living and breathing and suffering at the same time. And you know, the great poet Rupi Kaur says, the irony of loneliness is we all feel it at the same time. And I love that. And I want to respect that globally. I want to respect that and acknowledge that through my music and my sharing. And as I, what am I trying to say here? I wanted to get to this point of, as I travel all around the world and I get to see all these different nationalities and demographics and religious beliefs and political beliefs, and you know, when music comes on, all of that stuff fades away. You don't know you don't know if you're playing to a room full of Republicans or Democrats. You just know we're all there to experience live music. And I want to be really respectful of that time. So that's transformed me as a songwriter to sing to humans and do my best to still reach them on certain issues, but also just really reach the heart, not try to influence the mind so much.
Yeah, I think that that's such a beautiful message. I think you are such a shining example of how to take something, make a message of positivity, not sound like soapboxy, but accessible and
Yeah,
still like something that you want to really engage with. And hats off to you for doing that. Like,
thanks.
was there a moment in your life, I mean, do you credit that journey to like the way you were raised and like you were exposed to these kind of ideas through the value system of your family, or was there like a moment that like somebody gave you a book and like it opened your mind? Like, what kind of triggered this like new direction, or was it just general kind of maturity and growing older?
All of the above, all of the above. I mean, my parents are very loving, very kind individuals, and I have four parents because my parents divorced and remarried. So all four of my parents are thoughtful, loving individuals. And so when I'm out there in the world, I always know that they're watching somehow through this portal, or they're in the audience. And so I want to respect my parents and be a good kid. So as much as I wanted to do rock and roll and punk rock and smoke cigarettes and live a hard life, it just didn't fit who I really am. So giving that up and then learning that to sustain as an artist, and especially as a performing artist, which is a very physical task, I found, and I most likely from living in San Diego and visiting Hawaii, I found a yoga community that took me in. You know, when you first check out yoga, it's like, well, I don't know if I know those postures, and I don't know, it's going to be uncomfortable. But when you're embraced and you're encouraged to give it a shot, and you realize, wow, it's really not about the other people in the room. It's about how I'm connecting with myself, or myself in the mirror. I started to have a very powerful awakening, very powerful transformation, and started to have new energy and new strength that I didn't have in my previous younger life. Um, Around that same time, I'm probably being vocal about it on blogs and on stage, but fans start giving me books that influence them. And so I start ingesting books from many different cultures and backgrounds and beliefs. And I've often heard it called as cafeteria religion, when you've got a buffet of Christianity and Hinduism and Buddhism, uh, and you can kind of take little pieces of what you like from each one and apply that to your life. And so I mostly connect with Paramahansa Yogananda, who bridges Christianity with Hinduism, and my cat's named her Jesus and Krishna after Paramahansa's love for both Jesus and Krishna, and seeing the similarities in their world and in how they tell stories to lead us all to an awakening, which the awakening is that heaven is on earth. The awakening is that God is here now. It's not something that you're going to get to one day. It's that it's happening right now between you and I in this conversation, that we are actually a part of the larger organism that is the God, the good orderly direction, whatever you want to call it. And I'm not married to any dogmatic belief, but these types of things started to arrive in my life through maturity, through general inquiry. And honestly, I'm not done. I still don't think my beliefs are final. I love knowing that as I grow, I'm growing and changing and evolving. I'm always transforming. So I want to be awake to the new possibilities and adapt as they come. And certainly this is a year where we are all being asked to adapt and find new ways of living, new ways of being, new ways of communicating with the world, new ways of communicating with ourselves. So the journey is a journey. It never ends. And interestingly, there's no place to get. There's no perfect place down the road that we're going to get to one day. The perfect place is here now. So however we've managed to put this now moment together is what we get. So
That's, I think, amazing. Those are amazing words and great advice. I mean, I spent my whole younger life pursuing, a career that would bring me like abundance because I didn't grow up with it. And it wasn't for me until I shifted my focus towards like, what really do I love doing, and like what would make me really fulfilled every day. And I mean, Jay, I met you way back when I had like a t-shirt line that I was selling out of the back of my car. And
yeah, they were great t-shirts.
You were super supportive of me as a kid who was just kind of dabbling in this new kind of thing that I wanted to do. And you were like, you gave me so much confidence, and that eventually kind of led me on this path where I'm on today with Vuori. And so anyway, first of all, thank you so much for the support. But like for me, my personal journey, I have realized that the more that I focus on the journey and just being comfortable in this like ever evolving, always changing environment, and just really respecting and honoring that and really cherishing that, the more success and abundance comes. But when I focus on like some like outward goal that's like years down the road or something else, like that's where I start going a little bit sideways. And I know at one point I heard you say in an interview that your dad told you that like living an incredible life, or, you know, it's something about like it's not about the kind of awards and the money and the fame. It's like, it's really hard work, but it's that hard work that you've got to really love, or something to that effect. Am I saying that right?
Yeah, pretty much. And it's like, I think if you do what you love, it's not gonna feel like work.
Right.
Living your dream is hard work.
Yeah.
But if you love it, it doesn't feel like hard work. You lose time when you're deep in it. I know when I'm working on a song, writing it or editing it, you look up at the clock and hours have passed. It's like, whoa, I just time traveled. You know, it was hard work, but I love it. I lose myself in that. Going back to something you just said, I had an insight recently. You're talking about when you try to envision the future of this bigger world, and it can throw you off. It can kind of make you nervous about fulfilling that big world. It can fill you with questions of like, how am I going to accomplish that? My insight is that when I think too far in the future, and I talk to young performers about this, because they always ask, what do you do when you get nervous? And to me, nervous is when you're thinking about the show. You're still backstage, right? But you're thinking about the show and you're worried that you're going to forget your lines, or you're going to miss your steps, or what it's going to be like. And what's happening is you're trying to put yourself in the future, and your nervous system can't understand. Your brain is trying to visualize this future world, and your nervous system that's connected to your brain is freaking out because you're not in that world. You're in this world. You're still backstage. You're still in this moment. You're not in the future. And our whole life task, I believe, is to have mastery over your nervous system. Yeah. Is on a day-to-day basis, know how much coffee you can drink before your nerves go crazy, right? Know what you can handle. Know how to tune yourself up. Know how to keep yourself calm. Know how to keep certain muscles relaxed while you're sitting. I don't need to have certain muscles going. You know, just how can I learn how to tune in with my whole self and relax? Same thing about thinking in the future. How far in the future do I really want to live in that world before I start to get nervous and uncomfortable and stressed out? And I believe it's the physical reaction of your nerves saying, I can't live in the future. I can only live right here.
Yeah, it's something that I'm so glad you said that. I've struggled with that my whole life. And, you know, now more and more I'm asked to do interviews or be, you know, in front of a camera. And I always have been just somebody who gets really nervous about that kind of stuff. Like even before this, this conversation, like, you know, I went outside and I sat with myself and I did some breath work, and I came back in and I just like reset. But in life's kind of day to day, you don't always have opportunities to go break out and like sit there and do a breathing exercise. Is there anything like, I mean, it's like mastering your nervous system is like something that is so important, but so hard to do. Is there anything that you like? It sounds like you talked to me earlier about mantra, like saying things to yourself, repeating things to yourself. Like, is there any other like little tips that take you kind of out of that nervous response into the present moment?
A deep breath.
Deep breath.
Deep breath. And I even, it's the first thing I do when I wake up, when I really start to feel conscious. I mean, honestly, when I first wake up, my alarm goes off, I hit the snooze and I go back to sleep. That's my drug of choice. The snooze alarm is my drug of choice. I usually hit it at least twice, get that extra 18 minutes of sleep, whatever. But then it's time to get up. I take a huge breath, as big as I can, through the nostrils, just, and it's almost as if you can start to feel a cooling happening through your system. And you can do it any time of day. Same thing when I'm nervous, I'm backstage, I'm getting ready to go on. I realize, oh yeah, I'm overthinking this. I'm getting nervous.
Do you
So
still get nervous?
Totally still get nervous. Before I go on TV, because you never know how things are going to go. And plus with TV, you're only seeing the crew, but the real world is coming through that camera. And you don't have true access to that audience through that camera. All you have is hope.
Yeah.
All you have is assumption. And that can make you nervous because you never know how it's going to look or be heard or seen.
Yeah.
So yes, I still get nervous. And I take a deep breath. And when I take a deep breath, and I'm present to that deep breath, I can only be with the deep breath. A great tool that I learned in a yoga class. Honestly, some of the best information I've ever received, downloaded, learned has been in a yoga class. The yoga teachers know what is up. So if you've never been to a yoga class, I'm sure everyone watching this has been to a yoga class. But just in case, or if it's been a while since you've been to one, go sit with a teacher, go online, find a great studio. And because more than just the postures is the wisdom. And I had a great teacher say, let's all take a deep breath together tomorrow. So, you think about that. You can't, well, let's take a deep breath together yesterday. Okay, you can't. You can only take a deep breath right now. And when we're present to that, we're truly living in the moment. And to breathe life into is the word inspire. The definition of inspire is to breathe life into. So you're being inspiring with yourself. You are inspiring. You're breathing life into. And the whole point of a yoga practice is to sit and breathe consciously. The postures are just to give you something to do so you don't get bored. And to give you some challenges, because life is going to throw you challenges. Life's going to throw you challenges while you try to stay present. So the postures are going to give you challenges while you try to stay present and focus on that breath. And the more we practice that, the easier it becomes in our regular life off the mat. So taking a deep breath backstage, I feel my body cool, I feel myself calm, and I come back and I get happy again. And I go, oh yeah, I'm gonna ace this. And even if I don't ace it, I have that bit of detachment attached. That's funny. I have the bit of detachment attached to my situation. And I just try to have fun with it. So yeah, deep breath, man, deep breath, because it's free. The minute we stop breathing, the word inspire is to breathe life into. To breathe life out is expire. So the minute we stop breathing, we expire. Our life begins to stop and we begin to suffer. And with no breath for just a few minutes, we're gone. Brain shuts down, we leave the planet. So taking a deep breath really is regeneration. It's renewal. It will give you fuel. It will give you energy. It will give you ideas. It will give you good health.
That's beautiful. And on that subject of inspiration, breathing inspiration in, breathing life in, I want to talk about the creative process, because I think it not only benefits the people who are listening, who are pursuing like an art form. And I think, the word creativity is, it's such an interesting one, because like, as I've gotten older, I've realized that some of like the lawyers that we've worked with even are like extremely creative people in the way that they articulate and navigate the law. And there are even accountants that are there's creativity within all of us. I really believe that. And whatever career we choose, some careers lend themselves to like this more like kind of wide open channel, like expression of our creativity more than others. But I believe that we're all super creative. So right now, we are all locked in our homes for the most part. And for people that want to like unleash their creativity, or they want to understand how to tap into it, like, do you have any, because I feel like this is a really good time to get curious and to try some new things, or, you know, like whatever, like just hone that creativity within us. And I think it can help you, whether you're an aspiring songwriter or you're a doctor or a lawyer. I think like learning how to get in touch with that is so important. And so is there anything that you do, like how do you nurture your creative process, and like is there anything you pass along?
A practice of writing, and no matter what your craft, and I guess I'm speaking in generalities here, because I'm sure food people who know how to build flavor and deliver an amazing meal, I'm sure they have different practices in their craft. But from my experience, being a creator relies heavily on an ability to communicate, and an ability to communicate with myself on the page, with an instrument, with my own inner thoughts and feeling okay with that, obviously through cameras and microphones. And that communication is best nurtured, developed by journaling, by keeping a little diary that nobody reads. You don't even have to read it. And this is a technique I learned from an author named Julia Cameron. She wrote a great book called The Artist's Way. And the very first chapter says, when you wake up, write for 10 minutes, 2 pages or 10 minutes, call them the morning pages. And just get the garbage out. Just help your brain get going. And this is very similar to your yoga practice or your breathing practice. It's a writing practice. It kind of gets the narrator. It gets your data processor going, so that your system, your machine, your creative tool that you are, not that you're a tool, gets to become a better functioning creator. So I try to write. And what's great about writing too is at the end of the year, you actually end up with a whole library of thoughts. And I can go back in time and see what 26-year-old me was thinking in April. But I typically don't read my journal writing, because you don't want to turn the page. You don't want to look back and immediately judge yourself and say, this writing is terrible, because you won't write tomorrow.
Right.
The point is just start exercising your language. Just start exercising your dialogue. And by doing it with your hand, I've also heard, now this may not be true, but when you write from the pen, it's a direct extension from your heart. So you're actually free flowing from the heart, and whereas if you're typing, I don't know, these are just theories.
Yeah.
But what you're doing is you're activating that inner narrator, and that narrator inside is going to be the same one that's going to help you write emails, to communicate with your colleagues, put together speeches, and put together poems for the people you love, help you put together songs, help you put together a program, a set list, a yoga practice, an outline. Like, I just think that the brain wants to do a lot of different things. So if you can learn, just like breathing consciously, if you can learn how to tap into that narrator, and I do it through a practice of journaling, then you'll have more access to vocabulary and language and beat and timing and comedy and sensitivity, and etc. In all, I truly believe all crafts, all art forms rely on this language. I mean, in the beginning, there was the word, and it's our words that create the life, you know?
Yeah.
When someone says something, we're like, holy shit, did you hear what that person said? All they did was say words, but they mean so much. So a practice in writing can really help us get control of our thoughts and our words, so that we can be more mindful, more, intentive, I guess.
Amazing. And
Yeah.
do those like morning writing sessions for you, do they lead to songs sometimes?
Totally.
They do.
Totally. Usually the first page is, I don't want to be here. My hand hurts. This sucks. I didn't sleep well. I'm late. What's going on? And then by the second page, it's like, wow, this coffee is delicious. I love how the oil I put in there just swizzles around the top, and I can see my reflection. And when I reflect on this day in April, the blue sky and the cerulea and this, and suddenly the mundane starts to become more and more interesting and more beautiful. And by the third page, or the end of the 10 minutes, I end up writing something that surprises me. I'm like, well, who wrote that? Who thought that? Because I didn't think that ahead of time, but I thought of it just as I was writing it, you know? And that is something to be revered. And I think that's why I'm a spiritual person, is because I don't know where dreams come from. I don't know where ideas come from. But like even right now, we didn't premeditate this conversation, but even as we're having it, we're also being invited to have this access to draw upon the wisdom that we've acquired and share it with each other. So it's not that wisdom is just sitting here on the table. It's that you're giving me access to it through this conversation. Same thing in the journaling. You're going to give yourself access to wisdom or life experiences that you may have had that are going to be revealed to you on the page in a profound or prophetic way. That just reminded me of something that I want to share. The founder of Cafe Gratitude, Tirsi Engelhardt, is one of my teachers. I like to think of her as one of my teachers, if not my guru. And she has great podcasts. She does great streaming and Instagramming, and she shows food and brilliant ways of mindfulness and gratitude, etc. Wonderful, wonderful person. Love this woman. And she taught me that our whole life experience is the result of our actions. No, let me start over. Our whole life experience is the culmination of our thoughts, our speech, our actions, and our attitudes. Writing, doing art, crafting, making food, putting your attention in something you love gets to use all those things. It gets to use your thoughts, it gets to use your speech, your action, and your whole attitude about it. And therefore, your life experience is very pleasant because you're putting all of your faculties into something you love, whether you're going to serve that song or that food dish to someone, or you're just going to serve it to yourself. The point is you're spending that moment doing something you love that serves a great purpose, and that purpose is just enjoying your life.
Yeah.
So if your life experience is not going great, odds are your thoughts are somewhere that's not great. You're not with your thoughts. Your speech, maybe things that you're saying aren't in alignment with the life you want to be living. So if you're saying, well, I'm always late, or that person doesn't like me, is that really in alignment with who you want to be? Being on time and caring about this person? Our actions, what actions are you doing? What attitude do you have about your day and your experience? So something to think about, but that's been very, very helpful to me in my overall resilience and my overall life experience is, having mastery over my thoughts, speech, actions, and attitudes.
I love that. I mean, to me, that is the ultimate investment in your well-being and investment in yourself and your life. Is like starting with awareness, right? Because like, how can you even go down any of those paths if you're not even like being a little bit introspective and thinking about what is my current temperature? Like, how am I doing in this life? And I think that that process for different people, it's ignited and it's, they find different inspiration that start them down these paths. And then once you're there, I think what you just said is so well said and so beautiful. So Jay, we're 45 minutes in. It's so funny because everything you say, I'm like literally in my mind going, I want to ask you about that. I feel like we could talk for 3 hours, but out of respect to you and your time, I do want to try to get to some questions that
Sure.
The audience asked.
Okay.
So have you learned any benefits from this kind of quarantine life that you see kind of becoming more of a long-term permanent shift for you?
Well, sadly for my audience is I'm in love with being home. So this has actually helped me figure out how I can manage a farm and manage a music career at the same time. I'll still tour when the world opens back up and we're allowed to do that, but I'm going to do it more. I'm going to refine it. I'm going to refine it just so that I'm not out there so long. And honestly, being out there on the road too long makes me feel like just a consumer, like I'm wasting energy that I'm spending, you know, airplanes and hotels and vans, and you know, it's just, it feeds to that global consumption that destroys the earth ultimately. So being home is a more carbon neutral and possibly carbon negative approach to having a music career. So this has been very helpful to me in figuring out how to be more climate conscious and environmentally conscious with my music career. I'm hoping too simultaneously that all over the world people are starting to plant gardens and learning how to be better environmentalists, because they're now forced to be in one environment. And that's a really great way to become an environmentalist, is to be stuck in an environment and know that I'm responsible for this place. I'm responsible for this room, this apartment, this balcony, this yard, whatever it is that we have. There's a great quote that says, show me your garden and I'll show you the kind of person you are. The same can be said about your car. Show me the inside of your car and I'll show you the type of person you are. Or show me your bedroom and I'll show you the kind of person you are. So
show me your friends.
Show me your friends. Yeah, exactly. So how I'm very tidy already, but this is forcing me to be even more tidy, but I love it. I love, you know, organizing my world. So this is helping me be a better environmentalist going forward.
So this is not a question from the audience, but this is a question from me, because when I was young, like I got kicked out of choir because my voice was so horrendous, but I think I didn't get kicked out. I was asked to maybe like
try a different,
maybe PT was a better route. Yeah. Anyway, but I've always wondered, like, and I think most people do, what is it like to walk out in front of like 50,000 people and sing something that comes directly from your heart, and like listen to an audience sing it back to you? I mean, is that like, would you put that at like one of the most kind of peak moments, or is that just really superficial of me to think?
No, it's a great question, and I'm constantly in awe of the experience, and in awe that I get to experience it with my own eyes and ears. Like whenever I walk out on stage, that's one of my most favorite parts of a show, is being allowed, like, okay, you're on to walk out on stage and people applaud and you pick up your instrument and you sing and they're singing along with you. It's surreal. And yet at the same time, even though you have thousands of eyes and ears on you, you really don't know who those 1 or 2 or 3 individuals are in the audience. You know them as a collection. You know them as thousands. You know them as a big audience. You know them as Seattle.
Right.
You know, maybe you have some friends in the audience. Sure, you have some friends. You have some recognizable figures in the audience. But you're never going to know all of them personally, right? So there's this other part that's so strange. But I almost view that as being in the presence of God, or being in the presence of love. That's a great demonstration of being in presence of love, because all of these people have agreed to meet you at this point in time, in this room or at this venue, and they're going to gift you. They're going to gift me their eyes and their ears. They're going to gift me their attention. And that is such a huge feeling. I usually cry. When it's a big gig, I cry because I'm touched. I'm touched that people even want to choose to be there. And then if they sing back, it actually gives me comfort, because I realize, oh, we're all here to sing together. We're all here to amplify this message. We're all here to amplify these mantras. And all of us have these songs for some reason. And then through that singing, I get to know who that audience is. I get to know that, oh, they use this in their wedding. This is their graduation song, etc. This is a song they just love to blast and gives them hope. So it's a huge, huge feeling. You know, a couple of weeks ago, I started doing a live stream from my studio here. And the first week, I was really nervous. I didn't know how it was going to go. I've never used this live stream technology. I opened my computer and I hit go, and I saw the comments rolling by, much like all the hearts and stuff that are on this screen. And I started crying. I was so touched. Even though there's no audience here, I still felt it. I still felt the eyes and the ears and the attention. And it's a huge, huge honor. And it's like I said earlier in this interview, it commands respect, and it deserves respect. So it's made me a better songwriter, and it's made me a better person because of those people coming and singing along.
Yeah. Well, I can only imagine what that feels like. And it's like one of the only places where people from across country lines, different races, beliefs, like you name it, to your point, I think you mentioned it earlier, but people come together and they're united by this song. And it's like, it transcends all of our like earthly stuff, and it gets us up into this like more spiritual place, and where we're all united. And like, that is something to really cherish and to like pay homage to and be grateful for, and to really, you know, to really honor it. Because, and I think that, you know, you see so many people that are in your position kind of go down like a different path and become more destructive, because I'd imagine you're coming off of this incredible high, and it's like, well, how can I maintain that in my life, which is totally unsustainable, right? And
Yeah.
like, they get confused. But I think you've done an incredible job of navigating that and stayed really grounded. And I don't know if like your farm and being connected to the earth and still taking out your garbage and things like that, like help facilitate that, but I commend you in that way.
Thanks. I you know, I think because, like I don't get to go home with that audience, you know, even though that audience out there is loving the songs and they're giving me all this adoration. When you go backstage and you get back on the bus, you go to your hotel, it becomes very lonely, because suddenly you just went from thousands of people loving on you to being alone. It would be very easy to be destructive. And so that again is that certain level of detachment, to not being so married to that outcome and that married to that adoration. But instead being proud of the work, being proud of the songs that I write. And I also know that this industry is very, very competitive. So if I just settled on, hey, the songs I wrote are the best, they're great, they're enough, I think those songs would eventually get tired. And certainly I've gotten tired of playing some songs, and I think the audience would get tired of hearing those songs. And the competitive industry would get tired of me because I'm not producing anything that's new and original and great. So my focus that keeps me grounded is, or one of the things that keeps me grounded, is to continue to show up and write new songs and do the work and figure out what life is about today through songwriting. And then when I put music out, it feels like it has purpose. It feels like it's new, and I'm proud of it. It's in a way, it's more of the same, because I'm still trying to look for the good and still trying to sing songs that are positive. But it's for new times. So the work itself, and this goes back to what I was saying that Tercy's taught me, thoughts, beliefs, actions, and attitudes, give me my life experience. My life experience is best enjoyed when I'm lost in a song or when I'm writing that song. And so that's what's most important to me. Not so much the adoration. I love the adoration. I love audiences singing along. That's almost like the farmer's market for me. That's when I take my produce to the farmer's market and I see all the people at the farmer's market and I sell my produce. That's what going on tour is. That's taking my songs out to the market, saying, these are what I've created. Thank you for taking them. But then they take all the fruit, and then I go home. And when I go home, I get to enjoy writing new songs and growing new fruits that I'll someday take back to that market. And so it's a cycle, and it's seasonal. And knowing that, it keeps me grounded, because everything has its season, it has its time and its place. So that way I can enjoy my life.
Yeah.
And I think that's the task that we all have. You know, in life, there will always be suffering. From the moment we're born, the only guarantee is that one day we're going to die. And I think that scares the shit out of us. It certainly does me.
Especially right now, right?
Yeah, right. And so we breathe in and out until that time, and it's up to us to figure out how to fill that time. When we're lost, a great way to find ourselves is be of service to someone else, because it gets us out of our head and it starts to give us thoughtful speech, thoughtful action, thoughtful attitude that transforms our life experience. Same thing if we're doing a craft, or we're making a meal for ourselves, or we're planting a garden. It gives us something grounding that's thoughtful that will transform our life experience. So I really, in a way, I kind of get off on that. I really love bringing it back. You know, I love the farmer analogy too. I touched on it a second ago, but there's almost like a time and a place for all different levels of marketing and creating and entrepreneurship and selling. And then much like winter time for the farmer, we go quiet, we go fallow, we sit, we hibernate, we let the ground regenerate. In the spring, we throw out ideas. So in the springtime, for me as a writer, I'm writing all kinds of songs, hundreds of songs. And by summer, I see, okay, these are the songs that are really working. These are the produce, the crops that are growing. I'm going to focus on just these. And by the fall, I'm ready to take them to market. And so each one of those seasons requires me to basically wear a different hat. And I love all those seasons. I really do. And if I just lived on the road and lived in adoration, I would deplete myself of the energy. That season would be too long. And in some ways, in agriculture, we don't eat seasonally. You know, we ship food all around the world. We can eat tropical fruits any time of the year because we ship them from tropical regions. And that actually leads to a destructive planet. And it could even lead to an unhealthy lifestyle because we're eating things out of season. So same thing goes with our work ethic and our workflow and how we're addressing things. So yeah, like I said, we could talk about this for hours. I love this. I get off on this because I love trying to learn how to do it.
Somewhere you said like that you got into this for the music, not for the press and the interviews, and this isn't like your favorite thing to do, but you're so good at it. You're so well spoken. It would be a disservice to the world if you stopped sharing living in life. So keep doing it. But I want to wrap up on one thing, and like, you know, when we look at the positive of what's going on, you know, especially like in business and entrepreneurship, or whether you're an artist, there are incredible things that are birthed during these times, whether it's like Isaac Newton and gravity and calculus, or it's, you know, really new businesses that start during depressions have a very high success rate. Obviously, it has to be a good concept, but a lot of people in our community are like, you know, out there creating things. And one of my favorite songs of yours, there's a lyric, and it's leap and the net will appear. And it's like the way that you tee it up in the song, and it's like, bam! It's just so beautiful. And I've always loved that. And in my life, it took me a lot to build up the courage to like take that step. And I think from speaking with you today and your music, you know, like, you're a very curious person. Like you let your curiosity guide you, and it's like bared a lot of incredible fruit. And so like to kind of wrap things up, like what do you think about like just jumping off that cliff and having trust in the process, or for people that want to like create something, they just don't like know exactly what, or they're scared to do it, like what do you say to them?
Okay. Well, I say try not to think too many steps ahead because you'll exhaust yourself. And really just start with whatever you have. And a good example is my garden. I think I planted my first garden maybe around 2006, 2007. It's just a little patch. I didn't know what I was doing, but I think I know what they look like. So I'll just, you know, I'll stir up some earth and put some seeds in it and just see what happens. And it did okay. But through that, I learned that, oh, I should amend the soil or try it a different way or make sure I'm watering it in a different way or using mulch and compost. And every year, little by little, I would learn a little bit more about how to garden and what to grow and what not to grow and how to manage it so that I'm not exhausted by it and so that I don't hate it, so that it actually works with me and for me. I think the same thing can be applied to learning how to write songs or write poetry, is really just start. And when you start, you'll get a good sense of what you know about it, what you have, what resources you have to work with. And if you're at your desk and you're writing something, you go, oh, I really wish I had such and such. You might discover that you have something around that can inspire you, and such. I don't know. Let's say if you're a writer, you're looking for inspiration, read a book, because then you'll start to get your narrator kick-started by hearing someone else's voice. But maybe you want a typewriter, maybe you want a different pen, maybe you need the book to stay fully open. You'll start to discover these things as you use your tools, whether you're a maker, creator, dancer, whatever. You know, I'm trying to dance more, and I think I know what I'm doing until I see myself in a mirror, and then I look terrible, and it makes me want to stop. But then if I just slow down and I look in the mirror and I try to figure out, what does my body feel like in this position? How can I memorize where this position is? I realize, okay, if I just start and slowly work on it on a day-to-day basis, I'm going to get there. And not thinking too far ahead, a week later, 2 weeks later, suddenly when you sit down and you're working on it, it's just going to evolve. That's just how it works. I mean, look at little kids. I mean, there's no rules. You just give them something to do. They're going to learn it because they're putting in the time and the attention. You know, I think the same can be done for adults. You can figure it out. And I think the best advice is just start.
Yeah, I think that's the best advice. I know that rings really true for me in my process through several businesses, and you know, to where I've gotten today. Like, it's literally like, you just don't ever know, and wherever you think you're going, you're gonna end up taking a lot of lefts and rights along the way. So it's just about like getting out there, starting to talk to people, planting seeds, and like, you'll learn as you go. That's such great advice.
Yeah. You know, another thing I'll add to that, Joe, is when you also in the process of just starting and going, go with the flow, because you don't know where you're going to end up. And sometimes a certain phone call or a new connection on LinkedIn or a new connection on Instagram, hey, this person is interesting. They're kind of doing what I'm doing. Maybe there's a connection there, a new resource, a new tool, a new source of inspiration. Your project may not look the way you anticipated it, but it's probably going to look better than you anticipated it, because you go with the flow and you go with what's actually the path of least resistance, and what's easy, what's around you, what is actually wanting to help you achieve your goal. Whereas if you have this set expectation on what it's supposed to look like, you might push away great opportunities, and you might actually miss some great opportunities.
Yeah.
So that's a good, that was a good reminder.
I think so. And also, like, not being too guarded with what the intention is, because I really believe that you should talk to people about your project. You should like get it out there into the world, and then people will show up to support you. But if you're too guarded, you're not opening that door. You're not opening that window for for the world to conspire and help you. So it's like, don't be too guarded with that information or that idea.
Yeah. And at the same time, another suggestion is to talk about your idea, but don't tell everybody your idea. Don't make it the only thing you're doing, because your brain is going to think you're doing your idea, but you're really not. You're just talking about it.
That's a great
so
point.
I think you should talk about it and breathe life into it, but don't just brag about your idea. Like, make sure you're sitting down and putting your time into your idea as well.
Yeah, 100%. Well, Jay, I told you it'd be 30 minutes. I think we're over an hour. But, dude, thank you so much. And I got to say, like, we don't get a chance to talk as much as I'd like. We're both super busy. But, dude, thank you for supporting me and Vuori back when we were, like, doing this out of a garage and out of the back of a car. Thanks for seeing something that resonated with you and and supporting it. And I see you doing that with all of your friends. You know, you've really stayed connected to people that are up to cool stuff, and you've supported them and their small businesses. And I'm very, very grateful for that. And thanks for believing in Vuori 1.0, and thanks for believing in Vuori 2.0 and all of our evolutions. But I'm really grateful for you. And thanks for opening up your heart and sharing and being super honest on this podcast. I really appreciate it.
Of course, man. Thank you. You know, I'm wearing my Vuori shorts right now. I've had them for years. Dude, they don't wear out. I wear the Vuori shorts every day. I farm in them. I swim in them. They don't wear out. So whatever you guys are doing, it's magic. It's magic stuff. And I love small businesses. I'm a big, my dad had a small business. My stepdad had a small business. You know, me, even though my music career has grown, I still consider it a small business. We have our little fruit farm here. It's a small biz. So I love and appreciate the entrepreneur and what he or she is trying to achieve. So I'll always be a supporter of the little guy. So you guys are doing a great job. You guys are doing a great job.
You're being a shining example for all of us, man. And it's an honor to have you on. So we'll have to catch up in person and go for a surf or something like that one of these days.
Sounds good, Joe.
All right, Chad. Thank you, my friend.
All right. Thank you. Good talking to you. Bye-bye.
Okay, thanks.